So last night I was in the building at the Fontainebleau for Raymond Muratalla successfully defending his title as an underdog against Andy Cruz. You like that, huh? They, it was a hell of a fight. It was a fight that lived up to my expectations. I expected a very competitive, legit lightweight championship title fight, and that's what we got. So I think that to start, Raymond Muratalla clearly won this fight. It was I got to flash us back to last month's Pitbull and Roach, where a lot of people watching on TV thought Roach won the fight. And I thought being there in person, which, as you know, is a different experience than watching a fight on TV, but you have that discernible eye to kind of see as if you were in the arena, does Raheem. But I thought he clearly won the fight. And that's not to say Cruz didn't get some good work done. And I give credit to Cruz for biting down and withstanding 12 rounds of a sustained body attack against a big, strong lightweight with punching power who was throwing punches and bunches. And he was durable. He held through. He rallied. I gave him the eighth and ninth rounds. But I thought the first round and the eighth round and the ninth round were his only. I had the fight 117, 111. I could see 116, 112. And everybody was up in arms about 118, 110. But I thought that eighth round I scored for Cruz, that was a competitive round too. I thought he clearly won the ninth, but Muratalla to me clearly won this fight. Cruz gave a hell of an effort in defeat, but Raymond Muratalla has always been a fighter who has power and speed and skill and patience, but oftentimes too much patience and sometimes not enough of a sense of urgency. And last night he did. He put together his potential and unlocked it, in my opinion. They say you get 50% better as a champion. When he beat Zarur Abdullayev for the interim title, he was an interim champion who got elevated to a champion. Now, with this performance, winning handily as an underdog, he is a champion. And I think it is very much a real player with the big names now. What did you think of the fight? How close did you have it? And were you impressed by Muratalla's win?
The judging in the arena is indicative of how being present at a fight, depending not just on what you go into the fight expecting, which is something that you just pointed to, but really potentially what side of the ring you're sitting on
Right.
can vastly change what you see. In a where you have a 14-14 and then a 118, 111, you would say somebody has made a terrible misjudgment. Somebody's way off. Somebody should probably never judge again. And then the third card was somewhere in the middle between the two of them, split the difference. That's because it was one of those kind of fights. And watching it on television, it was a very close fight. I definitely had a more tire. This
Yeah,
pronunciation.
you got it right.
More tire
Muratalla.
winning,
Yeah.
but a close fight. And I was, as you're right to point out, aware of what this might look like if you're in the building. Because aggression, which you pointed out, there was an aggression meter for one of the other shows this weekend. Well, this is one of those things where aggression, I believe, made a big difference in perception if you're in the building, especially depending on what side of the ring you're on and how much of this exchanges you can actually see, whether or not the fighters have their back to you or not. There was a lot of in the pocket fighting, a lot of blocked shots as opposed to slip shots. There was a constant pressure from Muratalla that made the difference. And where Cruz lacked experience is in not understanding that you're losing these rounds potentially by picking your shots and then blocking and barely slipping inside the pocket as opposed to making statements in the round or stealing the round at the end. He wasn't doing the things that would be necessary for him to edge some of these rounds in his favor and make this fight close no matter where you're watching it. Which is why that 111, 118 card comes out, which is why I think even for those who thought the fight was close, still come down on Muratalla side. He was a more seasoned fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And that seasoning won the day. He was doing what needed to be done to win the fight. and never gave up his ground. His thing was pressure, and he stayed the pressure fighter throughout the fight. And inside, when they were punching and blocking and punching, most times he made sure that he punctuated the end of the exchange, which doesn't necessarily mean he got the best of the exchanges, but he punctuated the end and then applied pressure again, which reinforces that he's in control. That's how he won this fight. I heard the commentators say, one of them, that the experience and the talent dynamic, he commented on that talent beats experience. And then I also reflected on what you like to say, which is talent, or what did you say?
Hard work beats talent,
Hard
and
work
talent
beats
doesn't work
talent,
hard.
but talent
Yeah.
doesn't work hard, right? Well, hard work worked hard, and experience was the difference between talent and hard working. I think Muratalla had both things on his side, and what was lacking from Cruz was, believe it or not, some humility in understanding that being Eddie Hearn's guy, being maybe the flashier fighter with a potential bigger upside so early in his career, that Muay was just gonna let him do his thing, or that people were gonna give him these rounds because he just did enough. No, you got to go take that title from the champion. You got to go make those statements. You got to make that exchange look like you won it. And then if you're fighting off the back foot, then when you make the man miss, you got to make him miss by a mile. He liked to get hit and then look off as if he's looking the punch off. And to me, every time he did that, that was a tell. Oh, you got hit. I can see you got hit. If you do that, that means the guy missed by a mile. You're out there trying to be a showman. This was a learning experience for Cruz. I think Cruz will be better for this fight. He will look, he should watch this tape over and over and over again. Because it may have been his mentality and the way he approached the fight and his hubris and the way he fought the fight that lost him the fight. I'm not convinced Cruz can't beat Muratalla. He just did it on the night because he didn't really know how to, and he didn't know what not to do. And I thought that those shenanigans helped him lose the fight. That made me sure that you got hit. And sometimes he got hit and looked off, and I wasn't sure if he was looking off or if that's how hard he got hit. Like his head spun that far.
Mm-hmm. That's a yeah.
Go ahead.
That's an old school Cuban amateur tell. They along with when they land a shot and they go, hey, they hit you with a shot and they raise their hands to the judges. That shit works in the amateurs in 3-round fights. And that's why Robert Garcia told Bozy Ennis before the fight. And this was a gourmet appetizer ahead of those two squaring off for Boots and Ortiz. And he told him a lot of respect between those two. I got so much respect for both of them as men and as trainers. But Robert, who was advantage Muratalla, Robert has the deepest stable in boxing. Robert, by the way, is a better trainer than he was 10, 11 years ago with Brandon Rios. Robert has grown and matured as a trainer too. He was a good trainer back then. But this Robert is a better trainer than that Robert was. That's the reason why he calls that shit the motherfucking Robert Garcia Boxing Academy. And shout out to the Philly Dungeon of Bozy Ennis, which is nothing to be played with or underestimated. But yeah, the Muratalla is just a better professional than him. I don't think Cruz beats him in a rematch. I think Cruz would have to. Eddie's talking about him going down to 130 pounds because he didn't have the power. He may have marked up Muratalla's face, and Muratalla's probably feeling it this morning, but he didn't feel it on the night, and Cruz was feeling it. And yeah, that little look off and that hit a guy and those are still amateur habits that haven't been drilled out of him. And they tried to fast track him to a world title like Lomachenko was fast tracked, and he ran into his Orlando Salido, except Lomachenko actually did better against Orlando Salido because Orlando Salido isn't Raymond Muratalla because he's not as talented as Raymond Muratalla. There wasn't really the talent gap that maybe Cruz thought he had. And to your point about the hubris, I'm sitting next to my guy, Louis Cuba Arias, who is very objective, is covering fights now. And heading into the fight before the main event, I'm like, man, Muratalla has been dead serious all week, and I get it. Andy's being himself, and they're just being themselves. Andy's smiling at the Khalil Cole and Jesse Hart were having all these antics at the press conference and at the weigh-in, and Eddie Hearn is doing his witty one-liners and everything. And Andy Cruz was eating it up. He was laughing. He was smiling. Raymond Muratalla looked unamused and completely focused. And Cruz came into the ring with a musician, and he's dancing. It was a hell of an entrance. It was fun to watch. But when I pointed out the contrast in their two demeanors, Cuba tells me, "Yeah, you ain't done enough to earn that. Like you ain't done enough to earn walking in with the rapper or the reggaeton artist. Like, bro, it's your first title fight. Raymond knows he hasn't earned that level of an entrance yet. So he ain't coming in like that. He came into Nas. You can hate me now." And which is a funny contradiction in his thing. And then we all have our own contradictions, but he always is like, I don't give a shit what people talk about. I don't give a shit about anything. But then you come out to Nas, you can hate me now, which the whole point of the song is, embracing what other people say about you as opposed to not actually caring what they say. But whatever, you got to do you. And but yeah, there was not some big talent gap. Raymond Muratalla has good hand speed. That's why he was able to get off combinations. Raymond Muratalla has the deeper bag than Andy Cruz. Andy Cruz was the favorite, and he was perceived as the more skilled fighter. But Raymond Muratalla, that pressure you're talking about, it was very intelligent pressure. Plenty of times he took one step out to reset his pressure and make Cruz fall short, and then resumed his intelligent pressure. Cruz couldn't keep his back off the ropes from the opening bell. I gave him the first round, but he found himself on the back all the time. And ring generalship is not always turning a guy in the center of the ring, as you well know, Raheem. Ring generalship on the front foot is imposing that intelligent pressure and taking the center of the ring away from the boxer. And Muratalla did that excellently. He wasn't just the bigger man and the bigger puncher. He was the better boxer too. Just doing it more so on the front foot than trying to turn a guy. And man, shout out to Eddie and Matchroom. Got like those guys, but they don't build a fighter as good as Top Rank does. They have a proven track record that is second to none in this business. They gave their guy 23 fights and much more professional rounds, and Andy Cruz 6 fights in, and it showed. And last part about their bag, Cruz is a quick, twitchy high guard guy. He has very quick, twitchy steps around the ring. He doesn't have excessive movement, but he's a 1-2 artist. And Muratalla can go to the body with both hands. He has uppercuts. He'll loop the right hand. He'll double up the left hook. And even on defense, he'll angle off. He'll give the shoulder roll even every now and then. He was just the better fighter overall. It wasn't just the bigger man. He was in the bigger puncher. He was the better fighter.
Fighters who believe that they have already achieved something because they have some level of celebrity or because their attitude has given them some fandom, and you're selling a personality and a dismissive attitude towards your opponent, or a flagrant kind of if not audacity, then arrogance about your abilities, and then you go in with how many fights?
6.
Just 6 fights for your world championship first challenge, and you do the reggaeton or the rapper walking into the ring. You have these antics at the press conference. You're doing a look up. You're doing all the things that say that you're the established champion, while not appreciating what you actually have to do to establish yourself as a champion. Now, this is the kind of thing I think that is cultural. That really, that's on your trainer, because you're a young man. You've seen this thing play out with super talented fighters. If you're being trained in the Philly gym with a Boots who has that attitude and whatnot, and has yet to have the opportunity to prove that he is all of this, that he puts himself forward to be, and that people believe he is, he's still got to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
Putting that cart before the horse sometimes makes it a lot harder to get up the hill, because you got to push the cart and you don't got no horse pulling you. You haven't done it yet. You haven't created the machine. You don't know exactly what it's going to be like in there, and you haven't proven anything. And to someone like a Muratalla who again coming in as the champion, who's watching all of this, who's focused on you, and is not in his mind going to get beat by a guy with 6 wins, best you because he was narrowly focused on the win, and you were focused on being a winner. What Matchroom does, and you can criticize it, but they make you prove it. Eddie wants an American champion. He wants a sensation. He wants a guy who wins the world title after his 6th victory. He wants a guy who does all of that and then comes and beats the season champion so that can be their Matchroom star. And if you talk like that, if you act like that, I'm sure he promised Eddie a million times, oh, I can do it. Put me in. Give me the opportunity. I got you. Matchroom's going to be like, okay, show me. Because I believe Matchroom, they got a deep, they got a deep roster and they can get more fighters and they're comfortable in their deal. They are farming out for a superstar. And this is Star Search. They'll put you up there. They'll put you against the other guy. And if you don't make it, no problem. We'll put you back in the system. We'll put you back in the cycle. He ain't about to get dropped by Matchroom. But I think the risk that Matchroom is taking for them is well worth the reward if they find that guy in this process. That's what's happening over there. They need an American star who can be what he says he is. They need a black fighter, whether he be of Cuban descent and trained by a Philly or not. They need a guy who can attract black boxing fans, who can represent in that American black style and that fashion and show and prove. They're going to keep putting guys in to audition for that role. They're going to keep trying you out. And so it's up, I believe, to the corner. I think that's a not Boots, but a Bozy issue. He has to put his fighter in the right mentality to win that fight. He's got to know, even if the young 6-0 fighter doesn't know what he's up against, he's got to know. And if he gets in the ring and is, again, I believe in a close fight, he's got to be able to settle him down and make some adjustments to bring that talent out that's supposed to be exceptional to do the exceptional thing. And that didn't happen. With a 6-0 fighter, it's hard for me to lay it at the 6-0 fighter's foot. I'm putting that on the trainer. I'm putting that part of it on the trainer. That you saw what a seasoned, experienced, real champion does to win a fight, to ignore all the noise and go in there and do enough to, on Sean's card, for it to be a wide fight, but on nobody's card to be the loser. He was a draw on one judge's card and a wide winner on the other card, but nobody had him losing and nobody had Cruz winning.
Yeah, no, great point made. I agree with you. I respectfully agree with you about, I'm going to call him Mr. Ennis, because that's how much I respect Bozy. And Bozy also looks super sharp at damn near 70 years old in the gym, so he could still get busy. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And I even told Bozy after interviewing him after the press conference, I interviewed him after the presser, but I told him after the weigh-in, I said, Bozy, there's a big fight for you. Part of my narrative, my media guy narrative, Bozy, is going to be about the trainers. And he was like, I get it. And so this is a learning experience for Bozy. And that is okay. He is not at this level, the championship level, the experienced trainer Robert is. I said earlier in the video, Robert's better than he was when he had Brandon Rios. That was over 10 years ago. So yeah, it is on Bozy to learn from this and to get better. You gotta tell your guy, this is serious John. This is serious John. You can't mess around with this guy. This young Mexican kid is not playing around. So don't play around in there. Set the mentality now. Little things. After the weigh-in, a classic phrase from boxing is get off your feet, champ. Right? You've heard that, right? Get off your feet, champ. Go up to the room, get off your feet, champ. And Muratalla got off his feet immediately. A beeline to what this shit is over, the hoopla's over. I'm going straight to my hotel room, locking in. Andy was still being a jovial guy, was still taking some pictures with people, talking to some people. Get off your feet, champ. You know, get off. It's time to lock in. It's time to lock in. It's wartime. Or as Bomac would say, work time. You know, that's what time it is. And that's that kind of mentality you got to dial up. That's something for Bozy and Boots to learn the next time they're potentially in the near future going up against Robert Garcia in a Robert Garcia fighter. Because I can guarantee you, once again, that's how they're going to approach the fight, just like they did this fight. Business. All business.